Hi everyone, it's Ayesha here from God FM, and I want to talk about the fly on the wall. You know, when you do certain things or, certain people, you would love to be a fly on the wall. Okay. And so, when I talk about what happens to me, I'd love to be a fly on the wall on the child eaters, the blood drinkers, my neighbours that are kiddie fiddlers, they're pro the annihilation of human beings, they're trying to steal my soul and my mind, they're pointing lasers at my house, they're rigging up wiring, they're up and down full time at the, harassment. Like, for me, I wonder what it would be like to be a fly on the wall with those people. I really would. I'd love to be a fly on the wall. And then I also think about the people who have children that go to school with their children, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall in their house too. And then I'd like to be a fly on the wall with the police at this time, with the many reports they must be receiving of people being hacked, their phones not working, TV problems, and the same sort of problems as me. I would also love to be a fly on the wall with our governments. But particularly the child-eating, blood-drinking psychopaths that are pro-bodies of this transgender movement and stealing your mind, and are actively trying to steal my soul and steal my mind theft, and wipe my mind and take my body. They're actively trying to kill me. I wonder what it must be like to be a child-eating, blood-drinking psychopath harassing an innocent Christian. As I say, I've got a lot of foreigners around me, and I found that there's a mix of foreigners that participate in this. My understanding is that it's the care industry that seems to be the main feature of the role of the child-eating, blood-drinking psychopaths that have been brought into England, who are specialists at hacking, fiddling with wires, and picking locks. And I think their melanine's a bit darker, so they're not affected by the radiation as much. But then you've also got the white guys. I was thinking about this yesterday, and I want to talk about that too, the English people that have sold out to participate in the harassment and stalking and destruction of somebody's life for no apparent reason apart from being paid with gift cards and extensions and new cars and holidays and things, when they don't even know the person. But I also, like I say, what I think about is how they can continue with their lives, not realizing that this is going to happen to their families, and their children will be kiddie fiddled and bought and sold on the dark web, and they will be tortured and cooked alive and have their mind wiped by their phone. Oh dear. And they don't really fathom. They do what they do, but they don't really see, even though they do what they do. And this is, for me, very interesting, because some of these are families and they're English people, and they supposedly have Christian values, but they can sort of sell out their neighbours and participate in this. And what kind of people do that? Well, these are the people who have sold you out. these are the gang stalkers. They've been hired by our governments. And when people are doing things like they're doing to me, and they don't recognize that they're in the wrong, and they continue with it, not thinking that this is going to be their fate soon, and their children's fate, they are serving the devil, but they're going to all go to hell. So I don't think people really have a concept of the value of their soul, because they've sold out for a bowl of stew, like Esau did in the Bible with his brother. Yeah, Esau was very hungry, and he was into dealing with the animals. And anyway, he decided he was really hungry, and he saw that his brother Jacob had a bowl of stew, and he went, "Give me that bowl of stew. If you give me that bowl of stew, you can have my birthright." And I think it was Jacob said, "Oh, if you give me your birthright, I'll give you this bowl of stew." And he went, "Yeah, whatever. I don't really need my birthright. Don't want it. You can have it. Give me that bowl of stew." And so he had this bowl of stew, and then he lost his birthright. So these people have all had their bowl of stew. And I mean, the thing is, you can do this kind of thing to maybe a select few people and get away with it. But the level of attack is happening to so many people. I, for one, know another victim in my town. He doesn't know that I know about it. But he's actually a victim of the same problems, because his relative had been in touch with me, concerned for his mental well-being. And I did try to tell them that this is actually happening to me as well. And so people are really starting to wake up now. And what I've noticed, and I think about, is that people who know the gang stalkers, I know people listen to me in my town, and I know people think, well, she's right. Whew, that's a problem, isn't it? And where they might have brushed me off before, they're not really brushing me off now, because the things that are happening in England are ridiculous, aren't they? And you can't really argue with the information. Plus, as a preacher of God, I can tell you that I'm not crazy, and I speak the word of God, and I'm a truthful person. And my concern is for the rest of us, you know. But I find it all very interesting. Like last night, these people were at it full time. My neighbours at number 19. And these are the Indians that live next door, and they work for a care company. See what I mean? And then we've also got a couple of other people who live in that building. At my old house, I was able to see them arriving and coming and going, so I knew exactly who was doing it. It was a company called Apex Construction in a black Land Rover, and he had a brother or a son. No, it was a brother, and they looked like the boys from Brazil. You know, if you watched that film about the clone boys, so they looked like the boys from Brazil. And as soon as I saw this little Land Rover coming down the driveway, I was ready to power off my electricity. And in the early days, I'd power off my electricity when he got home, even if it meant no electrics for the night, so they couldn't torture me, because that's how important it was for me not to be tortured. And I'd hear him outside on the phone or talking to somebody, but I couldn't see that far down under the porch. And he would say to whoever he was talking to, "Oh, she's turned the electricity off. I'll have to come back tomorrow." In the early days. So I learned early that switching off the electricity was something that would help. But then they smartened things up and they found a way to switch things on even when I switched off the electricity, which is the problem I now have where I live, because it's the same team of people. Run by Brian Harris of 3 Vernon Court, and Pink in the big white van with Pink written on it. These are the gang stalking operation organisers for Torbay, along with Dean, who bought a property there. All of this you can find on Company's House under Vernon Court Property Management. The names of the people. And of course Brian Harris's wife was actually a child at the hotel, which was Vernon Court. As a child she lived there, so she knew the layout of the back stairs and everything that ran underneath the building and all through the building, which I thought was very interesting. So for me, I've put many things together, and everything seems to connect through Company's House and people's accounts and which accountant they use. And then that all connects to Dave Watt's accountants in Turkey. Along with a Muslim guy called Mo, who used to run a sewing company in the market. It's important to talk about this. You know, if you live in Torbay, you should know about this. Even if you don't believe me, you should know about it, because it's criminal and it could happen to you or your child. There was many other people, I don't know their names. They were in black vans. There was a black van with a tattooed guy, and he did the electrics mainly. And then there was Aquagas, who would turn up. And then there was Roman as well, a company called Roman. They're for the guttering. Roman, and they had a Roman head on their branded white vehicle with gold and red, and he would turn up when someone had got stuck in the loft and I'd lock them in there. I'm just telling you that from the fly on the wall. I would love to be a fly on the wall. These people made holes in the loft and would literally take the windows. In the loft there were windows. It was weird. They'd take the windows off the frame. I found a box of tools up there actually, with a saw and all sorts of electrical testing. A really massive bag of electrical plugs and things. And so they would obviously go up there to check what electrics were live and then connect things. And this was full-time there too. It's the same. In fact, when Apex Construction would turn up and I knew everything had been switched on, because he was under my property, renting from Brian Harris, who owned it, and then renting from Dean, the other one, supposedly renovating the other one, which was also being renovated. They had the full run underneath the house, and then of course relatives of Brian owned the one above me too, and also to the side. So I really couldn't get away from it. There was a little section under my grand piano where I would go and I would sit under the piano to connect to the internet, believe it or not. And the only thing that put me off this was the cat trays were next to the grand piano and it would smell. So it put me off using that area. But yeah, I think it's quite important to talk about these things. Ooh. And as I say, the final thing for me when I lived there was finally the electrics actually caught fire in the electric box, and the electrician said, "You're not staying here and you can't stay here, it's unsafe. If you stay here, you'll die." That's what he said. He said, "Some things happened with your electrics." I said, "I know." And that's because they were powering all their torture stuff through all the electrics, and they were running the electrics so that it would power on even when I switched the electrics off, which is very dangerous. But the thing was, it got to the point where I didn't actually feel safe to sleep with the electrics on. So I switched off my electricity because I knew that this guy from Apex Construction was up all night doing his bits and pieces underneath the floor of my property, because they had a loft and this would connect to my floor, and they were always putting pipes underneath and mess with the drains and things so that when you flush the toilet it would come through the sink. It was actually quite frightening, to be honest, and I want to talk about it. How frightening it is to be a targeted individual, to be harassed and stalked by your neighbors, and to have them gagging at the door every time you've got students who are going in and out as if they've done a deal, and your students getting takeaways which they haven't bought, but someone's bought them for them as a reward. Hearing people moving in the room next to yours and the floor squeaking in the middle of the night because strangers are in your home. And I want to talk about that, and hearing people walking around in your loft and somebody pressing your doorbell umpteen times during the night so they can synchronize everything to the door entry system, and to finally find that you can't actually run the certain electricity without it all going on. And that's basically where I am now, the same situation where I live, where if I put the boiler on, it all comes on now, or the fridge, or the microwave, or my coffee maker, or the washing machine, the cooker. And they've taken control of the wiring, which means that they've got an additional set of wiring coming into the electricity, which I think is dangerous. But the police won't investigate, so I guess I've just had to figure it out for myself by switching it off at night. And most of the time, actually, I can't even use this plug socket where my TV used to live, because they've synchronized that plug socket. And even if I just put a radio on that one, they synchronize everything to that plug socket. So basically, every single plug socket in my home has been intercepted by child-eating blood drinkers because they do home invasions. And I want to talk about how scary it is to have this happen to you. It's scary to come through to your bedroom and find footprints all over the frame of your window, where somebody has pulled the window off its frame and gained access to your house. and you realise they're in the loft. So you lock them in the loft, and then you see Roman turn up. And you overhear the conversations coming out of Mr. Brian Harris's house. That fucking woman next door. And, yeah, I want to talk about it, because I think it's fucking dangerous. I think that my life has been put in danger, and it's against my will. I'm not happy about it, and I feel very unsatisfied with the justice system of England. And what were they doing? Well, they were trying to steal my soul. They rigged up all sorts of additional wiring to pulsate the house. It was an apartment. These guys had a guy working from Applebee's called Simon. God's Chalk, God's something like this. And he's the one who put in this little amplifier. Corner of my building. I saw him doing it. They even put scaffolding all round my place so they could make adjustments to the windows, which this property was very high up, but they could access it from the property below. And the loft. And then underneath. And I would hear it going on all night. And I want to talk about how frightening that is. I also want to talk about the fact that whenever I'd call someone to come and help me, Brian Harris would be outside talking to anyone I called for help. I want to talk about the fact that someone actually phoned me from my own number. How frightening it is to be under this kind of attack. As a single mother, it is very frightening. And these people are obviously specialists in their operations of putting this all together. What exactly are they doing? And what are they putting in your property? Well, they're rigging up Bluetooth devices. They actually rigged up a little doorbell that would ping whenever I went out of the corridor from my bedroom. They'd go ping to notify them that I had left that area of the house. So this is evil. This is like Chainsaw Massacre, The Hills of Eyes, and Hostel. And it happened to me, and it's still happening to me. So what do? Well, they rewire the house, and they connect it to a neighbouring property's wiring, and then they entice the neighbour to participate in this so they can synchronize everything through the electrics. They spoof your Wi-Fi. They come in and they clone your phone and your SIM card. They physically do home invasions while you're in bed. They rig up something with the toilet pipe. At least that's what they did at the old house and this house. And the water pipes. And they put nano inside all of your supplies to poison you and basically to traffic you. I also believe I was drugged. I lost days in that place. I actually thought I was going to die there. Finally, when the electrician came and he said, oh, the electrics are unsafe. We can't stay here. There was a property I had on the books and I was able to move into it pretty much the same day. But I think that this is very frightening. And this could be happening to your mother or your sister or your cousin or your daughter. And if it does, it'll be frightening. And I think that people who do this should go to jail. And I don't feel I've got justice. And it disappoints me. It also disappoints me that the people who run this are able to recruit in the neighbours. But this is what I found, and I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the fact that this is England, and this is allowed to happen. When I moved to where I am, they'd come down the side of the house in the night, and they'd pound on the door and bang on the door at 3 in the morning, just so I knew they were here. Very frightening it was. So I had some coat hooks that you would normally fix to the wall, and I put them on the stairs, and I heard them trip over it in the night. That was quite satisfying. Like I say, I hope that these people who do this slip and fall and break their fucking necks. It's not nice to be frightened in your own house, to be terrified of your neighbours, to be terrified to have friends over, in case your neighbours get to them, to pay them off to participate in it. And it's frightening not being able to get an electrician or a plumber or anybody to help you. And it's also frightening to watch them vandalize your car. Having a guy from Apex Construction who can rebuild his car engine parked right next to your Audi convertible, rigging up all sorts of wiring so that your car is now a radiation centre, gives you horrendous headaches and burns your body as you sit inside and drive it. Apex Construction. It's important to know the people who do this operation in Torbay. And so I believe a lot of people are frightened of this gang. And yes, I suppose the good reason, because they destroyed my life. For no apparent reason. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've got dead bodies in their gardens. That's what I think. I wouldn't be surprised if they've got dismembered body parts around their kitchens. I wouldn't be surprised if they're taking people's organs when they die from the torture and taking people's souls and putting people's minds in the metaverse. This is what they do, I believe. And I want to talk about it. Since I'm still alive, only through the grace of God. But I think the reason the Lord let it happen to me, at the place of Vernon Court was because I had a full bird's eye view of the back and the road, and I could see who was coming and going, and I became familiar with who did what. There was a large Audi 7-seater with a woman driver, very pretty, who would turn up when the frequency sound stuff would start, the ringing, and they would connect that through the water. And an Apex construction, as I say, he had access underneath the property to all the wiring, and with plug sockets, wiring would actually go up the wall that now went below the ground and into the floorboards. So I knew someone had been in and rewired the place. I was going to have a full report done, but the owner of the property died. Anyway, there was another lady. I'm called Ayesha, by the way, sometimes, as a nickname. There was another tenant of the same landlord, and she had the same crowd doing this to her. So I think that's also worth mentioning. I'm not imagining it. I saw correspondence from the king. Well, from the monarchy. And the monarchy vehicles turning up. And letters from the prison. I assume that organising this involves criminals from prison. I think there was always youths on the balcony next door who were hooded and looked about 12 years old. Sometimes there were about 4 or 5 or more of them, brought in especially to climb into my loft. And I would witness it, you know, so I want to talk about it. Because no one would do anything. I can only talk about it. Maybe this will help any other victims of the same crime, so you'll know who to watch out for in the bay. Because it is quite frightening. It's very frightening to have to lock all your windows and leave them locked, because you've got people with ladders leaning up against your wall so they can climb over, and these guys climb over in the middle of the night to modify whatever they're doing, and will do extensions, and also put in things in their garden to point at you. And like I say, you can wipe a computer with a laser light, and you do to somebody with a laser light. What are these lights in the main town? The 5G, it's to do that to you. I've seen the cows tortured with the electricity, so I know what this stuff can do. And from my point of view, it appears as though we have been invaded, but it's like actually we've been sold out by our own country, in England anyway. And they've appointed leaders who want to destroy all English people, all Christians. I know that whenever I go out, where I live now is a new place, but still the same thing happens. The neighbour now, 21 Melville Street, is always at the same shops wherever I end up. And it's quite frightening and scary. Especially when you confront them and you ask them to stop torturing you with laser weapons, because you know what they're doing, and they call you crazy. And they publicly mock you for being a preacher of God. And everybody makes out you're crazy. I also want to talk about what happens when you call the police. These guys act as an intermediary between you and the world. So they take over your Wi-Fi, they clone and put a gateway between your Wi-Fi and the outside world, and also your phone is cloned, your SIM card is cloned, and it's also accessed from the network level through the subnet mask, the 192 IP address, and the proxies, the DNS server as well. And they put Wireshark on the phone, which is to monitor you, and they install a brain interface onto your phone so that they can take your mind and wipe it, like the woman Ariana Grande, who went to the Happy Days memory wipe clinic and couldn't remember certain things anymore. This is the same thing that they are doing, but not probably just to me, but probably have done already to a lot of the English. And but you should also know that this technology, they use it to cook your brain, but also to cook your privates. You know, when you go for an epidural, you have an injection in your back, don't you, eh? Well, what happens if someone fires a laser weapon at this particular spot on your spine? Well, quite a lot, actually. I've got a friend who's a targeted individual. She can't walk because these people have done this to her. But when I called the police, they wouldn't help me. In fact, they wanted to put me in a mental hospital and take my organs from me, because they decided that hacking and home invasions by neighbors is a mental illness. So then what you've got is, you've got neighbors who are openly doing it, and now they're rubbing it in your face because they know they're never going to get caught. And they'll mock you in public and call you crazy. And this is also even more frightening because it means that there's no justice for the victim, and it doesn't matter if they come in and rape you. Like, the police won't even take your knickers to check to see if you were raped or drugged. And they'll just be paid off by these people. Like I say, these people are so powerful. It is frightening because we haven't got a justice system. And these people have betrayed their countries. Now, normally, you see, when you go to war, you're aware that you're at war. But I'm at war, and nobody's aware of it, and no one will help me because they intercept all communication outside the world. And they also have made it so that I cannot run my businesses and earn a living. They've been in and slashed my furniture and put blood and guts from an animal who's had babies. They put doggy water in my bath, put acid in my bath to burn my skin, and they point laser lights at me. Put nano in the water and in the drains, and they're always drilling and doing things right next to my property. And from my point of view, I want you to hear what it's like. And it's frightening. Because they do everything with this invisible wireless electricity. They torture you in your home. And they know that the police won't help you because now you've been put down as a crazy person. Because they've got friends in the police. So like I say, normally when you go to war you'd be aware that you're at war. But any Christians under this attack, I reckon, a lot of people aren't even aware of it. I don't know if you've seen in China those people who do little twirls and then collapse and die. Well, this is the technology that they're using on me. The only reason I haven't done a twirl and collapsed and died is because I serve God. And I think God wanted me to be a witness of it so that I can warn others, since the police won't do anything. I must tell you about it and warn you. If you're in Turkey, then beware. Beware. Beware of the Indians who work for care companies. My concern is this: if the people who are perpetrating these crimes against me work in the care industry with old people, looking after people, which is a position of honor and trust with our elderly people. A lot of these are our elderly Christian people of England, being looked after by these Indians and foreigners who've come in and got visas and care, and often they work in the hospitals as well. They participated in the vaccination program, which is part of the annihilation and takeover of people's souls and minds. If they participated in this, then you've got to think about what type of people we have working in the care industry and in the hospitals. And like in my case, it's people who work in the care industry that are doing this to me. And it does seem to be related to the care industry and the NHS and the hospitals. Maybe that's because they want the body parts to put back into the food chain. I mean, sorry to talk like this, but, you know, we've got to talk about it, haven't we, eh? Because I suppose once they've taken your consciousness and your mind and your soul, then your body would die. And they probably have a ticking clock going, well, she'll be dead soon. Going to take the organs, we're going to use the heart for this. And your body parts are worth £1 million. And then all the little leftovers, they put it back into the food chain. Now, where I lived before, I was witness at the lockdowns of the vehicles that would turn up at Beefeater, the hotel. And there were lots and lots of unmarked white vans. I also had a friend staying in the hospital, and he told me that many people had gone in there with small, tiny injuries and ended up with bandages around their head, connected up to tubes, and yellow liquid going into their head. I can only tell you what he told me. And that they had put a funny hook in his toe, and that whenever he went past an aerial radio, it would twitch and make funny noises in his head. And they would be gassed at night, and he would see them putting things in white unmarked vans with polystyrene boxes. I'm assuming it's organs. And they wanted to do an operation on him. He'd fallen out of a building And they said his face needed reconstructing, but I prayed over him and he was fine. And I gave him some money and a phone so he could maintain communication with me. And I gave him some clothes so he could leave. And he did. But they chased after him. And they wanted to take him back to the hospital. So from my point of view, this is dangerous. So that's an example of the hospitals, what they like to do. And the care industry. So if you've got a relative in care or is cared for by anyone, I would look into this. Because I believe that the people who are caring for them, if they're the same people who are torturing me, are dangerous fucking people. That's what I think. And, you know, we don't really want paedophiles working with children. And we don't really want kiddie fiddlers and people like this living next door to us. And we don't really want neighbours that are pointing laser weapons to take your mind and soul living next to us. But again, I'd love to be a fly on the wall to know what conversations have taken place with people in this kind of evil, and I think is just the most evil thing I can ever imagine. I mean, I have pretty much ceased operations on everything now, and I kind of feel like I'm in a waiting room, waiting for my instructions from God, as everything I ever loved or held dear is stripped from me. My rights are stripped, and my freedoms have been stripped, and people are trying to steal my mind. They torture me every day. They hack and stalk me. They gas me and poison my food and my water. No one will do anything. And I just wonder how long I've got here. And I'm at a loss as what to do next, really. So I just carry on with the work of the Lord. I feel quite burnt out and tired. And I'm frightened in my own home. And this is me. And I'm in England. I'm from South Africa. I have got all my mind, I can promise you that. And the Lord tells me what they're doing. So I make the adjustments in the house to protect myself against the laser weapons, which can penetrate walls. I've put up shielding on the windows. So what they've done now is increased the weapons' strength. And they do home invasions every time I go out. And they vandalize my vehicles. And they will also pay off motor mechanics to fuck up your car. They will intercept any business deals that you do. And they'll completely take over WhatsApp. And they'll turn your phone into a torture device. And so, yeah, I don't know how many people are human. I don't know how many people are real anymore. But I think it's important to talk about these things. I, for one, am very disappointed. I wish I was never born. Every day I think about killing myself. Because I don't want to be here. Got nothing to look forward to. It's a daily grind of torture every day. And full-time harassment. With slamming doors when I've managed to disconnect the radiation that they've connected through the boiler. I have to go to great lengths to get it off, but I'm able to get it off sometimes, so I can have a few hours of peace without being tortured. It's got to the point where I'm a bit frightened to leave my home, because every time I do, they break in. And I'm frightened to stay in as well, because I don't know what they're going to do next, and the weapons are so powerful. It's a wonder I'm still alive. So there you are. I just wanted to give you a rundown of it and tell my story and explain how frightening it is. The other thing they've done where I live now and at the old house is they took over the door entry system, so my doorbell doesn't work anymore. They've taken over the main building's electricity and also Wi-Fi, and they've rigged up all sorts of spoofing networks and Bluetooth devices. So I basically can't use any Bluetooth devices in my house. I can't use any TV or extender. My own Wi-Fi is hidden actually, and I'm quite good with this. But because I don't know where this starts and ends, they're in the phone already, so they probably know all the things of the Wi-Fi, and they're rigging up all sorts of things. If I put a camera up, then they've got a jamming device to jam the signal so that I can't film them committing the crimes. Oh, and there's a fan as well that they run. I suppose when you're burning a CD in a computer and wiping the computer and reinstalling all the software, you need a fan going. Be afraid, guys. Be very afraid. Be frightened. Take heed. Even if you just believe a section of what I've said and you live in Torbay, take heed. I personally would like to see the heads on sticks. That's what I'd like. I think we're all in danger. If we're Christian, and we worship Jesus, we are already being persecuted and hunted, and we are in danger of being wiped out. In England and all over the world. We need to do something about it, don't we, I think? Alright, so I think it's always good to tell your story. It's Ayesha from God FM, and if you want to find me, you can find me on Podbean, Spotify, Amazon, Samsung, Chrome, YouTube, Apple, X, as well as TikTok and Telegram as God FM News, God FM New, God FM Radio, God FM Group, and God FM Media. And you can email me admin@godfm.org.uk, and you can WhatsApp me +44 777 35 777 88. Have a good day. Take care.